Alrighty. Well, welcome everyone. This is part two of Reload's Survive and Thrive webinar series, where we're producing a bunch of content related to COVID and the impact on brands. So today we'll be talking all about digital transformation. Right now, it's no surprise that lots of brands are having to really relook at how they're engaging and servicing their customers, and how digital channels play a role in that. So, I mean, if you look even at Lindt Chocolate, the brand who previously had to rely on retail sales, when Corona hit, they actually built a Shopify store in just 5 days to make sure they were able to service their customers online in time for their peak Easter period. So, I mean, no matter how big or small, every brand really needs to have digital transformation at the top of mind. So today we're keen to chat through some experiences over the past couple of months, and give everyone joining some tips on how you can really win on your digital channels. So to introduce myself, I'm Emily, a digital strategic lead at Reload, the award-winning digital agency. And today I'm joined by Johnny from Philip Kingsley and Gav from dotdigital, who've had plenty of experiences over the past 3 months that we want to chat through today. So guys, do you mind introducing yourselves? Johnny, do you want to start off?
Sure, thanks Emily. My name's Johnny and I run e-commerce for Philip Kingsley. We are hair and scalp specialists, treating clients directly in our clinics through London and New York, and also through our hair care range, which was created by our founder, Philip Kingsley, who was one of the world's leading trichologists or hair care specialists for over 65 years.
Nice, thanks, Johnny.
So I'm Gavin, head of strategy and insights at dotdigital. If you don't know who dotdigital are, we're a digital platform for omni-channel marketing for B2B, B2C, and NFP. And we pretty much help our clients with the speed and ease of our platform to help you get up and running, reach your goals faster, and ultimately, I guess, make more revenue quicker. I guess we kind of help people on a number of different channels, so not just email, SMS, live chat as well, which has been really sort of successful at the moment. And yeah.
So Gav, you should have plenty of tips to share with us today.
I've got a couple, I hope. Yeah.
No, so yeah, obviously you work with a number of different brands and clients, so really, yeah, keen to hear what you've experienced over the last couple of months. And Johnny, I mean, being a 65-year-old brand, I can imagine that you've had to shake some things up thanks to our friend Corona. So yeah, both got some good things to share with everyone today. Now, before we do kick off, just want to let everyone know that we will be taking any questions through the chat on the side, so feel free to ask questions through that. And we'll also be running 3 polls throughout today, so please do participate as we'll be sharing the results to that live. Cool. All right, so to get straight into things, Johnny, do you mind talking us through what your experiences have been over the past few months at Philip Kingsley?
Sure. So I think initially for us, we were obviously impacted, like a lot of businesses have been, in that we had to immediately close doors, both our own and retail partners. This was obviously upsetting for the business and people involved. As you know, as we've seen with everyone in this situation. We then obviously, of course, became a digital-only business overnight. Was a big impact for us, and after
you sleepless nights.
Exactly. After wanting to make sure we took care of the health and safety of our own staff, first and foremost, our next obvious focus was then on our clients and existing customers. From a product perspective, we kind of took some immediate action. Firstly, on our website to offer free shipping for basically any order value, so removing that minimum threshold, which for us meant we were gonna lose money on a certain number of orders, but it was important for us to ensure that clients who were used to purchasing through those more traditional means were now having to purchase online. We're not going to get penalized even if they just need to replenish one item. The other factor with the clinics was, of course, we're used to dealing face to face. We had to move very quickly to a remote consultation model. And I think what's been interesting through this, and you mentioned the Lint example at the beginning, we've seen with other brands like in our sector, like Facegen, is this pivoting to different models or propositions. There would normally, normal trading times take months or possibly even years. It's happened in weeks or days. And this startup mentality is something that we've all had to get back to, learning to adapt like extraordinarily quickly to the changing environment. And really over these months, that's going to be the main factor for us, is trying to react and adapt.
Yeah, and how did you find the free shipping? How did that impact sales? Did you notice much from that?
So for us at this moment, I mean, it had a positive effect for us. I said the most important thing was obviously that we were able to give that outlet for our clients to make purchases easily. But I think that key message resonated well during this time. When at a time when initially we're shutting down all of our marketing communications and trying to be in line with the sentiment of the country, that that kind of more of these helpful messages or helpful propositions have resonated well. So as well, where we'll see.
Yeah, so really just trying to adapt your messaging and tone of voice to that customer sentiment rather than pushing onto clients. Yeah, okay. And Gav, what about you and at dotdigital? What have you noticed amongst clients? What's the impact been over the last couple of months?
It's been sort of varied. There've been everyone's had to change in some sort of way. There's been some that have to change more than others. I'd say probably only 20% would not be affected at all, and they're kind of set up in a certain way so they keep going the same way. But we saw initial sends sort of spike, people trying to get out to their customers and explain what the situation is, how things are changing for them. Especially bits and pieces like changes to delivery times and sort of that sort of stuff. And I guess that sort of send volume is sort of dipped a little bit. But people are trying more and more things. So different channels is definitely something that's been up for people as well. Just kind of trying to engage on those channels and see what's going on at the moment. I think it's a really great time to sort of take stock, understand how people's browsing behavior, purchasing behavior is changing, and kind of just adjusting to that. So we're seeing a number of those types of things happening. Clients kind of getting in contact with account managers and asking, how they can adjust those sort of setups that they have currently. And there's loads of things going on. I guess we saw controversially a rise of these emails coming from CEOs, which I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm not a massive fan of those personally. So it's a strange thing. If previously companies were sending out emails from their CEO to the audience, and CEOs were engaging in that way, then I think that's absolutely fine. I just think it's a little bit. Sometimes it feels a little bit disingenuous, disingenuine when you get those sort of emails coming from a CEO, and they don't really care.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those come through. I'm like, who are you? I've never heard of you before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's as I said, it's all well and good if that's what you were used to doing before. If your CEO had some sort of persona with the public and they were connecting in that way, then great. And if you're using this as a new way of making that connection, then that's fine. But in some cases, it just didn't hit. I think that comes down to a lot of the content that certain businesses are generating, and I think a lot of that now is where we're sort of seeing a massive change, moving away from sales and focusing more on the generation of content.
Yeah, I read a stat yesterday actually that content consumption has gone up 70% during this time across social channels, which is huge. I mean, one, for brands having to increase that content output and making sure that it's actually, as you said, Gav, it means something and it's not just content for the sake of it.
Yeah.
At dotdigital, have you, do any brands come to mind that are doing this really well?
I've always said, and I sound like a massive fanboy, but I've always said Patagonia have always done this well. And I think this is something that we've spoken to our clients about, and everyone about, and listen, is to make more sort of useful content, because generally customers, they don't like marketing. They don't see marketing as being useful, and that's what they want. They want useful content. So I think that's what people need to be generating. If you've got a cause you can get behind as a business, then that's something that people can follow you along with as well. If you can just talk to anything other than COVID as well at the moment, I think that's something that sort of really hits home with people. I've been calling it sort of BAU with a twist. You're sticking to what you usually do, but you're just adding on something slightly different because people can't get outside. Giving them another reason to not be bored is just that sort of thing that we need to be sending. But as I said, I've always loved what Patagonia do. Philip Kingsley as well. I've always loved what Patagonia do, because there's always there's an element there of, yes, we're trying to sell you something, but at the same time we've got a cause that you can get behind, and you can really sort of follow that even if you don't want to purchase something.
Yeah. And Johnny, how are you guys adapting your messaging, and how are you focusing on content at Philip Kingsley?
I mean, I think that thankfully we're doing a little bit of what Gav was mentioning. So perhaps we'll be in his good books. But yeah, I mean, we've been adapting and moving to the sentiment of consumers in general and our customer bases and client base as this has progressed. We really, in the beginning, I said it was a case of we were kind of shutting everything down as we started to see things changing and different things coming through from our clients. The fact is that they were wondering how to deal with things at home when they're used to being able to interact with us face to face. We really started to push out more content initially, first through social and a lot on wellness. So in the beginning, it was that kind of feeling of care and wellness, and how can I start to feel better about the situation that was worrying for everyone. And in the expertise that we have within the business, through our brand president Annabelle, who has always been a presence. She's a trichologist herself, works within the clinic, works with clients face to face. We really kind of ramped that up with our whole team, and really on that side, it became everything we were doing with social became educational. And as things progressed, I think we started to take a bit of more of a data-driven approach to looking at not just customer interactions, but Google Trends, searches within our own site, how our business mix was changing. And we could see that shift from care to wellness to actual people just have concerns now. I mean, I never thought at the weekend I'd ever be cutting my own hair, but here I am.
Yes.
Scissors in hand.
You can't tell.
Well, that's why I'm sitting as far back from the camera as I can. It's now become a little bit more about immediacy, and our messaging and communication has had to adapt over this time. So again, it's going back to that way of trying to adapt as quickly as we can in real time as the situation changes, and always listening to the customer base.
Yeah. And Johnny, just on that, in terms of listening to the customer, so you mentioned, was it social comments that you've been seeing come through, as well as Google Trends? Is that your key sources for measuring customer sentiment?
Yeah, so we tried to take, I guess, a bit of a mix. I mean, as we always have done, between quantitative and qualitative data. But at the foremost, it's kind of what we're seeing through social and through direct interactions with customers kind of gives the signal that would help push us into looking into more data. And we've kind of seen that sweep. So like for example, when lockdown started, searches for the brand, for instance, initially dipped dramatically. And then we could see over time that started to change. And over those 2 weeks between, I think around about after the 2 week period between Easter and a couple of weeks ago, that had gone up 150%. So it was trending back up, and we know from that the sentiment from our base is starting to look again, starting to interact. And so we take this along with what people are searching for. We saw obviously rises in people looking for particular products like hair masks, things that really can treat themselves at home, and that's allows us then to alter what we're promoting, but also taking the sentiment of the client into how we message it, and it's kind of combining that together. So these are the things that we should be doing regularly anyway, but I think at this point it's made us kind of really hyper aware of that fact, and constantly trying to look through that data.
It's funny you say that, because I mean, I guess I've been preaching this sort of stuff for a long time, and it's never been more important now to sort of go back to those sort of basics, and just as you were saying, look at what people are saying directly to you, or sort of monitoring what they're doing online, is what I've always called sort of looking at people's digital body language. Which is stuff that you would probably do in a store. If they walked into your store, you'd look at them in a certain way and you'd sort of react as accordingly. But you can still do that online. You just have to look at certain things, and asking more questions of people as well is probably another thing. I've seen probably a good rise in surveys. Hopefully people have got more time on their hands, right? So.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that point in terms of, I guess, the easy thing to do is literally ask your customers what do they want. I've across a couple of our clients, we've been looking at asking polls through Instagram stories, which you can do both through an ad format, or you can just do organically. And that's a great way to get a bit of an idea as to what type of content people are after. Is it tips, or is it styling advice that they're keen to know? And that way you can tailor subsequent marketing based on the actual data, as you say, Gav. So, and then I think on the other side that you touched on was a few brands have been doing the virtual appointments. So across some of our clients like Beulah, as well as Astrid and Miu, doing at-home styling to help customers, I guess, bring that offline experience online. And Johnny, again, you guys are doing that at PK, right?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we've had to start making things remote, and that's something that we'd we thought about doing, I guess, for a long time, but had never really planned to execute. So far has been working well for us. I think really in terms of how we are interacting with our customers, like I mentioned, we've really ramped up the amount of live streams we're doing through social, so that we can still have that kind of face-to-face engagement with as many people as we can, in the same way as I guess we're doing just now, and that's something that's worked well. And actually, I think what a lot of the businesses really enjoy, we're getting people involved that were never used to doing this before.
Really building that community.
And when I think when again, when you're faced with having to make those changes through necessity, then you can see good things happen.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of examples as you sort of mentioning, Emily. I've seen, there's a company called Trebien who unfortunately opened up a store, I think, around sort of February time. Really unfortunate for them. So opened up a store in London, and then we're moving into sort of lockdown. So they started doing sort of virtual store tours, taking people around the store, showing them the products, etc. So, I guess redistributing the resources a little bit. And I mentioned earlier, live chat has been something that's been really helpful to people at the moment. So your call centers may be overrun a little bit, so live chat helps to sort of alleviate the pressure there. But also, you'd have employees on the shop floor. They're not around anymore, but they're highly skilled. They know about products inside out, and they actually know how to speak to people as well, which is useful. So getting people to transfer their skills and jump on live chat has been sort of really helpful, and we've seen a massive sort of increase in people using that channel. It's been really nice.
Yeah, and live chat's a bit of a no-brainer, really, as you say, Gav. When you've got the resources already, like reallocate them. There's tools like Gorgeous that allow you to also automate that process and make it a bit straightforward if you don't always have the resource available, as well as Facebook Messenger too.
Yeah.
Now I'm keen to chat a bit about marketing, channels and how some of your marketing plans have changed, for yourself, Johnny, but then across some of your clients, Gav. So yeah, Johnny, do you mind telling us a bit about how your approach has had to change?
I think for us in the beginning, it was massively about scaling down. All our priorities kind of went into really just search. So if someone was looking for something, we would try and fulfill that. But that came, and I think every business would have noticed it was in this position that when everybody suddenly becomes an e-commerce business at the same time, or ones that were multi-channel are now only e-commerce, advertising costs are bound to go up. We're all a lot more of us fighting for a smaller pot. So that was something that became difficult, and actually conversion tactics during this point became really, really important. So our US, really trying to get our USP of business to the forefront and trying to message correctly became far more important than it was before. I think there was then a second period where we then started to expand back into other channels, and then from there we've really started to put much more emphasis back into social. Obviously, as you said earlier, there's far more content consumption than there was previously. So these are the spaces that we're now trying to play in, and again, where we can see that people have concerns and they're looking for something in particular, then we know that we can address those pain points with certain products or even content that we have available. So those channels have become, I think, more important than they were before. Something that we're trying to do more with. throughout this, email has obviously been vital. That's the only channel that we have, apart from obviously our phone lines, where we have a kind of direct one-to-one potential for direct one-to-one contact with a customer, and not just in keeping them updated on things as they move, but being able to make sure we're making the right recommendations for things that they might need during this time. So it's always been a constant. As other things move, email is always there.
So I guess, not just relying on people actively searching, so like your search channels, but being present and being more of that educator and supporter during this time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess, I mean, by keeping your community engaged and being present, avoiding that sales push, they know that you're there when they are ready to shop. And I mean, even looking at your existing customer base, you could look at things like referral marketing, which is also very much done through email, to rely on your existing fans to help grow and support your business during this time. And I guess don't have too much time left, but Gav, what are your tips for brands to, I guess, keep their customer base engaged? And I think particularly, I know we talked before this about that post-purchase communication.
Yeah. I think that's massive at the moment. Really understanding why someone's purchased with you, whether they've been a repeat purchaser or they're brand new. If they're brand new, this is a massive time for you to try and build up some loyalty. I think loyalty is kind of out the window at the moment, but you try and work on that. If someone's just found you, you've got to want to try and keep them, because as we move out of this phase, and hopefully move out of this phase pretty soon, that's a new customer for you, and you want to try and keep hold of those guys. But the stepping up your game on the post-purchase needs to be something that we're doing. Not just saying you bought something, great, buy something again. It's more like you bought something, and how-to guides. This is how you should wear it. This is how you should use it. All those types of bits and pieces that are useful. As I said, not necessarily marketing, just sort of ramming a product down someone's throat, but kind of looking towards how best to utilize something after you've purchased it.
Yeah. So again, content and education.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Johnny, I'm going to ask just one last question from you about what we have time for. How are you planning for the rest of the year? And do you have any tips to share with everyone in terms of this?
Apart from being extremely flexible, I think we seem to be reforecasting constantly what's going to happen. But I think it goes back to the beginning of what everyone said, was we've kind of changed and moved into more of this startup mentality again, and it's something that we really want to keep going the way through. I mean, we've launched so many initiatives in such a short space of time that ordinarily would have been on a year's roadmap or more for us just now. And I think that lean thinking, that mode that everybody kind of maybe thought they were in, but they really weren't, is something that we want to try and keep going. And again, with that, as e-commerce and marketing professionals, we'll always talk the big talk about being customer first. And again, to a certain degree, we always were, but I think this is really forced, set before us, to become hyper aware of what people actually are thinking. And lastly, something I pointed out before was we'll start to more focus, I guess, on our USPs and our messaging more than ever, so that I think no matter what channels we end up playing in, or what kind of mix we see at the end of this, when things do start to change, that again we're really still focusing on the things that matter to the brand. And yeah, that's where we want to we want to keep carrying this forward. So there's been a lot of hard things that we've had to go through this, but hopefully the learnings that we've had will take us somewhere better.
Completely. And yeah, I think touching on a really good point there, like now's the time to be scrutinizing your data, knowing, I guess, what's working, what isn't, and then just going back to basics, like being agile, thinking about as a brand what you stand for and, you know, why you exist, why customers care about you, and really using that to just leverage any, you know, any planning going forward.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, that's kind of wraps us up nicely. Oops, saying my connection's unstable. Hopefully everyone can still hear.
You're still there.
That's good. Yeah, that wraps us up nicely in saying, I guess, yeah, really, this is something Reload can support with, but I think for any brand, you know, look, there's plenty of content out there. At the moment, we're actually doing free mini growth plans for any brands. So where we actually just have a quick call with you to discuss your goals and objectives, and then put forward 5 actionable recommendations to help improve your e-commerce performance right now. So please, yeah, anyone listening, welcome to get in touch, and this is something we can help you out with. Outside of that, we've got plenty of content on our website and across LinkedIn. 2 recent pieces just up on the screen now. I know dotdigital have plenty of content, plenty of webinars as well, so check them out. But yeah, a big thanks, Gav and Johnny, both for joining us today. It's a pleasure to hear your insights, and yeah, thank you everyone else for joining in.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.